That's me. This is Lana the Llamacorn. Benny's somewhere. Welcome to the show.
Alright, well today we're here interviewing Lana the Llamacorn for Miss Saxon's No School Show with your friend Alex. Lana, first and foremost I'd like to ask how old are you?
I'm 70 million years old.
Wow, that's really old. Does anyone else in the audience have a question for Lana?
What does your spaceship look like?
Well, my spaceship is actually sitting right behind me. It doesn't need any jet fuel because it just is able to travel on photons, which are tiny particles of light that propel me through the universe.
Where did you come from, Lana?
I came from a place where all llamacorns come from, actually, but I can't tell you the name because I'm sworn to secrecy.
Lana, how did you meet Miss Saxon? Or Alex?
Well, I was just hanging on a rack at the gas station, and she was in there buying some M&Ms, and she saw me, and she said she couldn't leave me there alone, so I was pretty happy to go with her, actually.
Lana, are you a kid or an adult?
Well, in Llamacorn here, 70 million is actually about middle age.
Lana, what's your favorite food?
Oh, clearly my favorite food is sparkles.
Do you have a dog?
No, but Miss Saxon has a dog, and I really enjoy looking at him. I don't like talking to him, though, because he tries to put me in his mouth. I don't want to get eaten by Benny, but he's a nice fellow.
Lana, what song do you want to sing next, Lana?
Oh, my favorite song is actually Mail Myself to You by Woody Guthrie.
I'm gonna wrap myself in paper. I'm gonna dab myself with glue. Stick some stamps on top of my head. I'm gonna mail myself to you. I'm gonna tie me up in a red string. I'm gonna tie blue ribbons too. I'm gonna climb up in my mailbox. I'm gonna mail myself to you. When you find me in your mailbox, cut the string and let me out. Wash the glue off of my fingers. Stick some bubble gum in my mouth. I'm gonna wrap myself in paper. I'm gonna dab myself with glue. Stick some stamps on top of my head. I'm gonna mail myself to you. Take me out of my wrapping paper. Wash the stamps off my head. Pour me full of ice cream sodas. Tuck me into my nice warm bed. I'm gonna wrap myself in paper. I'm gonna dab myself with glue. Stick some stamps on top of my head. I'm gonna mail myself to you. I'm gonna wrap myself in paper. I'm gonna dab myself with glue. Stick some stamps on top of my head. I'm gonna mail myself to you. I like it.
My songs for kids!
Hey, it's me, Alex. This is Vinny. This is the part of the show where we're going to start reading a book together. It's called Ozma of Oz. And I'm not sure which one it is in the series of the original Oz books, i.e. Dorothy of Oz, or The Wizard of Oz. But it's the only one that I have a physical copy of, and my grandmother is the one who gave this to me. So I thought this is the one we should start with. Shout out to Wiley Saxon. She gave me this book. Hopefully we'll get Benny to stay there because he's super cute. All right. This book was created, literally, this book that I'm holding in my hand was created in 1907. 1907, okay? Chapter 1, The Girl in the Chicken Coop. I love chickens. The wind blew hard and joggled the water of the ocean, sending ripples across its surface. Then the wind pushed the edges of the ripples until they became waves, and shoved the waves around until they became billows. The billows rolled dreadfully high, higher than even the tops of the houses. Some of them, indeed, rolled as high as the tops of tall trees, and seemed like mountains, and the gulfs between the great billows were like deep valleys. All this mad dashing and splashing of the waters of the big ocean, which the mischievous wind caused without any good reason whatsoever, resulted in a terrible storm. And a storm on the ocean is liable to cut many pranks and do a lot of damage. At the time the wind began to blow, a ship was sailing far out upon the waters. When the waves began to tumble and toss and to grow bigger and bigger, the ship rolled up and down and tipped sideways, first one way and then the other, and was jostled around so roughly that even the sailormen had to hold fast to the ropes and railings to keep themselves from being swept away by the wind, pitched headlong into the sea. And the clouds were so thick in the sky that the sunlight couldn't get through them, so that the day grew as dark as night, which added to the terrors of the storm. The captain of the ship was not afraid, because he had seen storms before, and had sailed his ship through them in safety. But he knew that his passengers would be in danger if they tried to stay on deck, so he put them all into the cabin and told them to stay there until after the storm was over, and to keep brave hearts and not be scared, and all would be well with them. Now, among these passengers was a little Kansas girl named Dorothy Gale, who was going with her Uncle Henry to Australia. They were visiting some relatives they had never before seen. Uncle Henry, you must know, was not very well, because he had been working so hard on his Kansas farm that his health had given way, and had left him weak and nervous. So, he left Auntie Em at home to watch after the hired men and to take care of the farm, while he traveled far away to Australia to visit his cousins and have a good rest. Dorothy was eager to go with him on his journey, and Uncle Henry thought she would be good company and help cheer him up, so he decided to take her along. The little girl was quite an experienced traveler, for she had once been carried by a cyclone as far away from home as the marvelous land of Oz. And she had met with a good many adventures in that strange country before she managed to get back to Kansas again. Wink, wink. So she wasn't easily frightened, whatever happened. And when the wind began to howl and whistle, and the waves began to tumble and toss, our little girl didn't mind the uproar the least bit. "Of course we'll have to stay in the cabin," she said to Uncle Henry and the other passengers, "and keep as quiet as possible until the storm is over. For the captain says if we go on deck, we may be blown overboard." No one wanted to risk such an accident as that, so you may be sure. So all the passengers stayed huddled up in the dark cabin, listening to the shrieking of the storm and the creaking of the masts and rigging, and trying to keep from bumping into one another when the ship tipped sideways. Dorothy had almost fallen asleep when she was aroused with a start to find that Uncle Henry was missing. She couldn't imagine where he had gone, and as he was not very strong, she began to worry about him and to fear he might have been careless enough to go on deck. In that case, he would be in great danger unless he instantly came down again. The fact was that Uncle Henry had gone to lie down in his little sleeping berth, but Dorothy did not know that. So she only remembered that Aunt Anne had cautioned her to take very good care of her uncle. So at once she decided to go on deck and find him, in spite of the fact that the tempest is a synonym for storm. It means the same thing. There's a great play by Shakespeare called The Tempest. At once she decided to go on deck and find him, in spite of the fact that the tempest was now worse than ever, and the ship was plunging in a really dreadful manner. Indeed, the girl found it was as much as she could do to mount the stairs to the deck, and as soon as she got there, the wind struck her so fiercely that it almost tore away the skirts of her dress. Yet Dorothy felt a sort of joyous excitement in defying the storm. And while she held fast to the railing, she peered around through the gloom and thought that she saw the dim form of a man clinging to the mast not far away from where she was. This might be her uncle. So she called as loudly as she could. Hold on. "Uncle Henry! Uncle Henry!" But the wind screeched and howled so madly that she scarce heard her own voice. And the man certainly failed to hear her, for he did not move. Dorothy decided she must go to him, so she made a dash forward during a lull in the storm to where a big square chicken coop had been lashed to the deck with ropes. She reached this place in safety, but no sooner had she seized fast the hold of the slats of the big box in which the chickens were kept than the wind, as if enraged because the little girl dared to resist its power, suddenly redoubled its fury. With a scream like that of an angry giant, it tore away the ropes that held the coop and lifted it high into the air, with Dorothy still clinging to the slats. Around and over it whirled, this way and that, and a few moments later the chicken coop dropped far away into the sea, where the big waves caught it and slid uphill to a foaming crest, and then downhill into a deep valley, as if it were nothing more than a plaything to keep them amused. Dorothy had a good ducking, as you may be sure, but she didn't lose her presence of mind even for a second. She kept tight hold of the stout slats, and as soon as she could get the water out of her eyes, she saw that the wind had ripped the cover from the coop, and the poor chickens were fluttering away in every direction, being blown by the wind until they looked like feather dusters without handles. The bottom of the coop was made of thick boards. So Dorothy found that she was clinging to a sort of raft. To a sort of raft with sides of slats which readily bore her weight. After coughing the water out of her throat and getting her breath again, she managed to climb over the slats and stand upon the firm wooden bottom of the coop, which supported her easily enough. Why, I've got a ship of my own, she thought, more amused than frightened. Can you imagine being more amused than frightened that you're off the ship in your own ship? It's crazy. More amused than frightened at her sudden change of condition. And then, as the coop climbed up to the top of a big wave, she looked eagerly around for the ship from which she had been blown. It was far, far away by this time. Perhaps no one on board had yet missed her or knew of her strange adventure. Down into a valley between the waves, the coop swept her, and when she climbed another crest, the ship looked like a toy boat. Toy boat, toy boat. Can you say that 10 times fast? Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. All right, everybody stop. Can you say toy boat 10 times fast? Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat, toy... Oh, I only made it to 3. How far can you go? Pause the video, try, come back, post how many, times you said it. Welcome back. So she's looking at the ship that she was once on, and it looks like a toy boat. Soon, it had entirely disappeared in the gloom, and then Dorothy gave a sigh of regret at parting with Uncle Henry, and began to wonder what was going to happen to her next. Just now, she was tossing on the bosom of a big ocean, with nothing to keep her afloat but a miserable wooden hen coop that had a plank bottom and slatted sides, through which the water constantly splashed and wetted her through to the skin. Ugh. There was nothing to eat when she became hungry, and she was sure to do before long. And no fresh water to drink, and no dry clothes to put on. Well, I declare, she exclaimed with a laugh, you're in a pretty fix, Dorothy Gale. I can tell you. And I haven't the least idea how you're going to get out of it. As if to add to her troubles, the night was now creeping on, and the gray clouds overhead changed into inky blackness. But the wind, as if satisfied at last with its mischievous pranks, stopped blowing this ocean and hurried away to another part of the world to blow something else, so that the waves, not being joggled any more, began to quiet down and behave themselves. This is our dear Dorothy, afloat in the hen coop. Look how pretty the waves look. I think it's a good art project for later. See? It was lucky for Dorothy, I think, that the storm subsided. Otherwise, brave though she was, I fear she might have perished. Many children in her place would have wept and given way to despair. But because Dorothy had encountered so many adventures and come safely through them, it did not occur to her at this time to be especially afraid. She was wet and uncomfortable, it is true, but after sighing that one sigh I told you of, she managed to recall some of her customary cheerfulness and decided to patiently await whatever her fate might be. By and by, the black clouds rolled away and showed a blue sky overhead, with a silver moon shining sweetly in the middle of it, and little stars winking merrily at Dorothy when she looked their way. The coop did not toss around any more, but rode the waves more gently, almost like a cradle rocking, so that the floor upon which Dorothy stood was no longer swept by water coming through the slats. Seeing this and being quite exhausted by the excitement of the past few hours, the little girl decided that sleep would be the best thing to restore her strength. The floor was damp and she was herself, I missed a part, and the easiest way in which she could pass the time. The floor was damp and she was herself wringing wet, but fortunately, this was a warm climate and she did not feel at all cold. So, she sat down in a corner of the coop, leaned her back against the slats, and nodded at the friendly stars before she closed her eyes and was asleep in half a minute. Cute. Okay. That was, yes, the end of chapter 1. Therefore, that's the end of the reading for today. I want you to talk to your friends, brothers and sisters, and adults, and share your predictions. If you feel so inclined, share them in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time for chapter 2 of Ozma of Oz. It's called The Yellow Hen. You want to say bye to Benny? Come here, bud. No, he doesn't want to say bye. Come here. Come here. What about this? Come here. Come get it. He wants me to throw it. He didn't even go get it.
Hey, it's me, Alex. Welcome back. We are going to move on to the art history section of the show. Art history, love it. These are all art history books. That's what I studied in college. Starting off, kicking the whole thing off with a surrealist artist named Joseph Cornell. The Art of Joseph, this is a tiny book I have about the art of Joseph Cornell called Dime Store Alchemy, written by Charles SIMIC. At the beginning, it starts off with a little bit of information about him. So I'm gonna read some of that to you now. Joseph Cornell was born on December 24th, 1903 in Nyack, a town on the Hudson River, so that's close to New York City. His parents were Joseph and Helen, and he had 3 siblings. But no matter what happened, Joseph's mother made sure that he was well educated. So she made sure she had enough money for private school. When he got out of school, he got a job with a textile manufacturer. Textiles are like clothes and like blankies and things like that. And what he would do is he would walk around New York City. And so this is when like the story of Joseph Cornell really starts. He would walk around trying to sell little pieces of textile to people. And he started noticing all the stuff that's just in the city, right? So he would go by bookstores, and he would go by record stores, and he would go by junk stores, and he would go by all these places, okay? And he started collecting all these little things. And he also started to become a kind of like thoughtful and homebody kind of person. So as you can imagine, he's going around the city collecting these things and then taking them back home and kind of just studying them, if you will. They eventually moved to a house all together in Bayside, which I don't think is in Manhattan, but I could be wrong. I think it's like outside. And he lived there for the rest of his life, and that's where his studio was, and he never left New York City, ever. And he became quite famous. He knew all the artists. He could have gone to Europe, he could have gone everywhere, but he never left, okay? And it says here, in 1931, Cornell discovered the Julian Levy Gallery, and he discovered the Surrealist movement. Surrealism is really cool. I have a book right here on it. It's like, if you ever saw Dolly and the Clocks or Fantasia, that's a very surrealist thing, okay? So, surrealism, realism would be real, right? Stuff that just looks real. Surreal is like, okay, it looks real, but there's something wrong. What is it? And that's kind of what his boxes are like. Now let me show you some of these montages, if I may. It's literally a box, like all this stuff is inside the box. It's about this deep, right? And so it's 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, meaning it pops out. Inside you see the background is a map and some words. Also there's a bird sitting on a little perch, and there's a little piece of wood just kind of coming out, okay? Okay, this one's another bird.
You know me, I'm a bird nerd, so of course I love Joseph Cornell. This one's an owl with a little piece of wood again. All right, now they get kind of funny. This one's great, love it. Okay, this is a little wine glass. This is a tiny little head. Who knows where he got that? It's like a little shrunken head. And then there's a glass box around looks like a globe. Oh yeah, it's got a map. It's got maybe like half a globe. There's a pipe, and then there's little candles at the top. There's also a little globe in the glass. This one's really cool. There's a newspaper print of a dancer. There's a drawing of a box. There's a cutout of the same dancer. There's a bracelet, and then there's this crazy like Dungeons and Dragons cube. More birds. This one's cool. Birds sitting on a perch. This one kind of looks like a beach house. There's a little ball connected to 2 rods. This looks like a thermometer. This is a ton of birds, and he cuts out pieces of magazine, and he made strips of them, and the magazine strips have birds on them, and then he also cut out other tiny birds, but in the shape of the bird, and put them on perches in front of the magazine strips. And so all of these were in boxes that are like this deep, okay? I want to read you part of this book, Dimes for Alchemy, is that there are little poems in there and little stories about Joseph Cornell. This is called Miss Delphine. On the streets Cornell walked 40 years ago, there were still medical leech dealers, importers of armadillo meat and ostrich eggs. There were people like Miss Delphine Binger, who collected goose, turkey, and chicken wishbones so she could boil them and polish them, then decorate them with charms and ribbons. She sent them to presidents, movie stars, famous politicians. In the same way, Cornell sent gifts of scraps of paper and odd objects to ballerinas he loved. Interesting. Examples of boxes for the next assignment, okay? Okay. This one is called Matchbox with a Fly in It, Shadow Box, Music Box, Pill Box, a box which contains a puzzle, a box with tiny drawers, Navigation Box, Jewelry Box, Sailor's Box, Butterfly Box, box stuffed with souvenirs of a sea voyage, Magic Prison, an empty box. This box just is, again, one of Joseph Cornell's boxes. It's just a box with a bunch of little eggs in it, and this box has a scary doll with a bunch of twigs. If you feel so inclined, this would be an easy one to copy. Now, your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to gather yourself a box. Now, your box doesn't have to be a rectangle box. For example, I found this box that my friends Benedine and Edie gave me. This box would work. It could be any size box. But I'm gonna use this box because it's bigger and I wanna fit more stuff in it. I might have collected some things, but first I might find, and this is just a stack of papers I always have because I like to tear things out of magazines, and I suggest you do too. I might find a little boat picture I can put at the back. And next to the boats, ooh, I like this one, of some mountains at the bottom. Boats and mountains don't go together. Says who? Me, not me. All right, I'm gonna need tape and I'm gonna need string, but I don't have tape and string. So I'm gonna make my box later and I'm gonna show it to you, especially because I don't want you to copy my box because I want you to have your own ideas. But I'm just gonna show you some things I collected. This is Science, you might have met him before. It's my seal. He's gonna sit in there. He's definitely gonna need a rock from Utah. Now, I might take some of little cardboard cutouts and I might hang them with my string. And then, of course, I have to have Kylo Ren as a part of my box. It's just a thing. Oh, now, like I said, this box isn't done yet because I haven't taped anything down or strung it up, right? So once I do that, I'll be able to just go, hey, here's my box. But right now, everything just falls out. So that's your art history assignment / art assignment. If you complete one, please send me a picture of it or send me a video of you explaining your box and I will splice it into the next Miss Saxon's No School show because I'm learning how to do cool stuff. I also suggest you learn how to do cool stuff during your quarantine as well. Alex. Now, for the part of the show where we talk about geography. Guess what? Geography's the coolest. It's about learning where things are, what goes on there, who lives there, what the terrain is like, whether or not you can swim there, whether or not you can climb a mountain there, whether or not you can take your parents, I don't know, maybe it's parents free zone. Geography is my favorite subject because I like to look at maps. This is one of the coolest books in the entire world. It's National Geographic's Atlas of the World. So I'm going to, seriously, no joke, randomly pick a place for us to dig into right now. So I'm going to put it down in my lap, I'm going to randomly pick, and I'm going to close my eyes, and that's how you know it's going to be random. Seriously, ready? I'm not, this is real. Well, I got to the index. Okay, ready? Dope! Sweet! Okay, Ireland and Scotland is where it ended up landing, okay? Scotland is actually attached to England. Oh, this is gonna be difficult. Scotland's actually attached to England right here, okay? Scotland I know for a fact because I've been reading a book about Scotland recently. It's called the Lowlands of Scotland. Why might it be called the Lowland of Scotland? Because the land is lower. This is called the Highlands of Scotland, and that's where there's mountains. You can go visit the Loch Ness Monster in in Scotland. This is Loch Ness right here. It's really funny that we landed on this because I've been looking at this map a lot lately. But not on here. This is Loch Ness. N-E-S-S. The Loch Ness Monster is from Loch Ness. And anybody who tells you he isn't real doesn't know what they're talking about. Also, I said he, but the Loch Ness Monster is definitely a girl. Scotland is really, really cool. Scotland fought for its independence a lot of times. Most recently, they had a vote to see if Scotland could become independent from England again, and that was like 5 years ago. But in my book I just learned about, one of the very last times Scotland really got to fight for themselves was a battle called the Battle of Culloden, and it was when Bonnie Prince Charles came over from France and said, I want to be the King of Scotland again, and England said, no, you can't be the King of Scotland. But many Highlanders died in that battle, and Culloden is right here. Culloden Moor is what it's called, and right here is Inverness. Inverness is the town that Outlander goes to. Down here are the bigger towns. Like, where is it? Edinburgh! Yay! Edinburgh is where J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, that's where she lives. She lives outside of Edinburgh on a giant estate. Edinburgh is also the host of a really cool festival every year. It's like a theater festival and a comedy festival and a clown festival and all sorts of performances. So I've always wanted to go to Edinburgh at that time of year. It's like a month long, and there's a ton of cool shows that go on during that time. But I gotta tell you, I've been wanting to go to Scotland for a really long time. And so when all this is over, I'm definitely going to go to Scotland, and I'm going to hike around all these lochs. The lochs are lakes. It's the similar word, right? There's Loch Ness again. There's Lochlann, and some of the lochs are, maybe all the lochs are connected to the sea, but I see this one in here, Loch Ericht. It doesn't look like it's connected to the sea, whereas this one right here, Loch Linhay, it looks like it's connected to the sea between Ireland and Scotland, so... A loch might not always be a lake. It might, let's look it up. I'll look it up and I'll put it up on the screen. It might also be something that's connected to something else. So, Scotland. Hopefully, we learned a lot about Scotland. I love Scotland. Never been there. Totally want to go. Raise your hand if you want to go to Scotland. Me too. Okay. This is a song you should all know, but if you don't, that's fine too. It's called She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain. Stay tuned for a chorus that you might not have heard before that will be repeated. She'll be coming round the mountain. singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, singing yippee, yippee, yay. She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes. She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes. She'll be driving 6 white horses. She'll be driving 6 white horses. She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes. Singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, singing yippee, yippee, yay. Oh, we'll all go out to meet her when she comes. Oh, we'll all go out to meet her when she comes. Oh, we'll all go out to meet her, yeah, we'll all go out to meet her. Oh, we'll all go out to meet her when she comes. She'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes. She'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes. She'll be wearing pink pajamas. She'll be wearing pink pajamas. She'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes. Singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, yay. Singing yippee, yippee, singing yippee, yippee, yay. Thanks for watching Miss Saxon's No School Show. Tune in next time for what happens to Ozma. And to see what's up with Lana the Llamacorn. Benny is nowhere to be found. Hopefully we find him before the next episode. Just kidding, I see him. He's right over there. Bye!